Feliz Cinco de Mayo and happy Chipmunk Adventure Month, fans! Does everyone remember the story of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer? If so, here is an adorable picture of him and his father, Blitzen. That's right, his father's name is Blitzen, for those of you who don't remember. Now imagine the same Rudolph you know and love, but having got under the effects of the dreaded night howlers. Welcome back to the Lucas Grub J #1 channel. Today I'm going to talk as much as I can about Rabid Rudolph, or 'Twas the Nightmare as it was originally dubbed. In 'Twas a Nightmare, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer gets pricked with porcupine quills by some elf known as the purple-haired elf. And the story I was inspired by takes place right before the Christmas Eve launch, as explained in Rudolph's '98 movie, Rudolph, the movie. And as such, it causes Rudolph to, let's just say it causes Rudolph to not behave like the average Rudolph you know and love. His voice gets deeper and more demonic. He's less caring and loving. It's not on purpose, of course, no. He just can't control himself because he's under the influence. It all starts off with a nightmare. And I can't exactly go into how bad the nightmare is, but let's just say it ends up with Zoey, the love of his life, ending up dumping him for Arrow. Pretty sad, right? Right. He then decides he needs some air the next day. But when he runs into his bully of a cousin, Arrow, let's just say Arrow finally gets what's coming to him, but not from the Rudolph we know and love. When Zoey walks out of the barn to find him, it ends up being Santa, and yes, Santa does exist in the story. Santa ends up being surprised, like Santa of all people, and Blitzen, Rudolph's dad, says, "What? No, not my Rudy. Not my Rudy." Of course, you know what Cupid the reindeer's gonna say. I don't know, little brother. But one thing I do know is my son never lies. As of late. Of course, let's just say I turned Arrow into the villain in a Night Howler version of this story. Same case happening to Rudolph, but different effects. Or different potion. Something. And there's this villain, see, named Sultrie. She's affected sweet, innocent Rudolph, and Zoey immediately sees it and hears it with her own eyes and ears. You never guess she would have heard it with her own ears, right? Wrong. Sorry to those people who may not understand the movie version. And then Santa says there's one way for them to help Rudolph. Stormella. And can you guess where Rudolph is by the time they go to Stormella? Rudolph is in San Francisco. or as I like to pronounce it, San Francisco, terrorizing all the Pokemon in Golden Gate Park. And of course, you'll never would guess it, but Rudolph's mother, Mitzi, is understandably in tears. Any mother would be too, if their son was in Rudolph's paws, or hooves, depending on how you view reindeer feet. Now, I can't exactly state everything that's happening, or at least I can't remember what I have to state. But let's just say it gets to Rudolph to the point where Rudolph ends up battling his own father with his antlers. Like this. Bang, 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 boom. And Rudolph tries to... Blitzen tries to snap Rudolph out of it. And of course, it starts off with a nightmare. Then feeding off of it, or something. And then you can say goodbye to the beloved Rudolph you know and love forever. Unless you can save him in time. Of course, Blitzen's infuriated by this, but tries to calm himself down for Rudolph and says, "Don't listen to the creature's lies, buddy. You need to realize that your mother and I will always love you, no matter what." But the voice inside him ends up winning, big time. And then Rudolph pins his father to a tree. I know, shocking, right? And then Blitzen chokes out, Rudy, please, your mother and I love you." Of course, Dark Rudolph, as he's called, shouts, "Lies! Lies! I remember you calling me an accident, so say goodbye." But then there's a bunch of Pokemon who try to help him. And let's just say the fight goes on for a while, and no one knows exactly how long it's gonna last. Now, if you're an Angry Birds fan, like of Angry Birds Stella, Angry Birds Space, or anything, picture the Angry Birds flock, don't care which characters, going into that fan fiction and trying to fight Dark Rudolph, or Rabid Rudolph in my case. And as well as you can imagine, if scientifically speaking, Mitzi and Zoey would also have antlers as well, as both genders of reindeer have antlers. When it comes to reindeer, antlers are, how do I say this nicely, gender neutral. You didn't think that was possible from the movies you saw, huh? Yeah, I wouldn't have either without science. Anyway, a fox named Slyly attaches the snowflakes to Rudolph's heavy chest, or fuzzy chest, and Rudolph's in a trance, or Dark Rudolph, because he's a demon by that point. Or in my version, his fur is just matted and dirty, and his eyes are reddish brown. Blood red mixed with his adorable soft brown eyes. Sad, right? Yeah. Anyway, Slyly then says a memory. "Remember how I rode you around when we first met, Red? How I tried to ride you around until you knocked me off my feet? No, scratch that. How I fell off?" Then Zoey comes up and says, "Remember who gave this medallion of valor to you? Rudolph, Santa loves you, your parents love you, and I love you, with all my heart and soul." And she gives him a lick on the cheek. Because when you think about it, reindeer actually nuzzle kiss. But the way I see it, they lick. Just as dogs do. And yes, I know you don't actually see Zoey licking Rudolph in the movie, but you get my point. A kiss is a kiss, so should we really be surprised? I don't think so. Rudolph then tells everyone what he remembers, and that's where his memory ends. Then there's another fight going on from there. I should probably point out that Rudolph ends up being a test subject. And gee, you'd think this was all about fame going to his head, huh? Of course, this wouldn't actually be the case in the fanfiction I've read. If you haven't read this fanfiction yet, I highly recommend you do so. Well, especially the part where he apologizes for what he does and says later on. Those of you who are fans of the SuperKitties and want to write a fanfiction about those 4 adorable super cats in super suits, Dark Rudolph is the villain for all of you. I salute you, SuperKitties fans. Rudolph also apologizes to his mom and pop for letting the nightmare get to him. Of course, Blitzen states that Rudolph's already apologized, and his mom comforts him, saying, "We forgive you, sweetie." By his, I mean Rudolph's mother, Mitzi. Yes, her name is Mitzi. She states that they forgive his son, and that they're willing to help him with any problem he encounters, be it night howlers, those are my drugs, well, my fanfiction drugs, real life drugs, which aren't possible in my fanfiction, and stuff like that. Rudolph then apologizes to Zoey, saying, "I'm sorry if I hurt you in any way." Of course, Zoey brushes all that aside, stating that she loves him to the moon and back. Now to move on to final results. I'm gonna have to say Twas a Nightmare is a neutral good because you actually get to see a dark side of Rudolph for fans of the dark side. Oh, I almost forgot. Happy Star Wars, everybody. And thank you, Lucasfilm, for bringing us the Star Wars franchise in the first place. And one thing I liked most about it was the fact that they got Rudolph back to normal and that he apologized and that his parents weren't angry at the end. Especially Zoey. You never want Zoey to be angry at Rudolph or to break up with him. Never! Of course, this concern happens in another fanfiction called A Force Conflicting. And let's just say the results are about similar, but Rudolph's not angry at Rudolph. Blitzen's not angry at Rudolph. Excuse my goof ups. He then says, "I will always love you, no matter what you end up doing for the rest of your days. I don't care if you're a flyer or a chef, or even a musical singer. All I care about is that you're happy. What I want for my boy most is doing something that he enjoys." And you can probably imagine where it goes from there. But anyway, that Twas a Nightmare fanfic was pretty good. As a matter of fact, I wrote my own adaptation into a fanfiction of my own, but with Angry Bird Stella characters and different movies and TV shows. But I'll come back to that another day. Anyway, please like, subscribe, comment, and click on the links below or to the side, depending on your device, for more information. Talk to you next time. Bye.